Okay, we're shifting gears hard. This is
and carefully.
This is something.
We're shifting gears hard and carefully.
Yes. So if you follow me on any socials, you will have known that I had a video go kind of viral on TikTok and a couple of other platforms, making a joke about how every sticker company in the United States all of a sudden had to scramble and put a bunch of paid ads out because they had this immense opportunity due to a particular situation with, I would say, the majority stakeholder market share company.
For sure.
Sticker Mule.
Yeah.
So, Dan, do you want to kind of explain that for those who may not be familiar?
Yeah, and I just let me preface it by saying there's every risk that we're going to make exactly the same mistake they did here in this conversation. We're trying to be really, really, really careful and not sort of establish a position like was done there. But when we get into it, you'll understand the challenge around that. So, our politics in this country of the United States of America, I know we have listeners overseas who are probably watching us with some level of aghastness. I don't know.
Probably.
But things hit a new low a week or so ago in American politics. And that's really what I'm going to say about that. But in apparent response to that, the CEO of Sticker Mule sent out social posts and emails to his customer mailing list. It was an interesting message because it was entirely partisan. It was entirely aimed at supporting his direction of politics, wrapped in some language about kumbaya, we need to calm it down, and can't we all get along, and we should get along by supporting my candidate. That's pretty much what the message was.
Well, and it's interesting because when I saw the first post, it didn't have that last bit in it that was kind of, I think, the sticking point. And I sent it to you, and I was like, this is kind of interesting. What are your thoughts on this? And you were just kind of like, I don't know. And I honestly was just kind of like, okay, it's not really a great idea to put your personal politics on your business socials. But I was like, okay, whatever. And was ready to move on. But when the email came in, it was much more pointed.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should support my guy.
Yeah. And by the way, buy my product to show your support for my guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting detail about that we can circle back to and why that was in there.
All right. I'll say I also got that same messaging from them by text. I'm on their text list too. So I got it on all channels. And it's fair to say the backlash to this move on their part has been significant.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say that they definitely got a lot of attention and probably not in the way that they were hoping.
Right.
That being said, they have been very busy in their comments, kind of doubling down on
leaning into the, if you don't like it, get out. They've gone all in on this messaging.
Yeah.
And by my rough count, their Instagram has lost something like 30,000 followers this week.
Yep. There's been some tangible consequences of what they did. And let's start at the very beginning here. If you own a business, if you are in charge of something, if you are a person that exists in this world, you are 100% within your right to say whatever it is you want to say about your personal politics and the candidates that you support
100%.
And the things that you care the most about. But there are good reasons why those things don't belong out in public.
Yeah.
You have every good example of that.
You have every right to say whatever you want to say. This is America, But the consequences are not something you can avoid. You're going to have repercussions to the things that you say. And, I think that they are feeling those repercussions. I think that when their sales numbers come in for this quarter, those repercussions are going to be real clear. I know that there were a number of people, including me, who sent messages to their support department saying, please delete my account, delete all imagery and personal information you have on me. I do not trust you with it anymore.
Yeah. And that's a really interesting part of that too, because there's a lot of people talking about how they unsubscribed to their email list and then got follow-up emails.
Oh, I got I guess that unsubscribed happened because I went to try to log in to my account on their website and it didn't log me in. So that was great.
Mhm.
But what I did get was a survey from them saying, hey, tell us your thoughts about
Oh,
Sticker Mule and our customer support. And I just declined to respond to that. I wasn't going to pour fuel on it. There's plenty of fuel being poured. I don't,
yeah.
my drop is not going to make much difference.
But speaking of drops, though, their website is set up so that real-time reviews
Yep.
show up
Yep.
on their website.
Yep.
So if you went to their corporate page, all this negative stuff is right there.
Yeah.
Which I cannot stress how poorly they handled this situation. Because let's get one thing out of the way. This was not necessary.
Right.
There was no person or force compelling them to say anything.
No.
So this is 100% self-inflicted. And then they didn't do anything to try and at least make it look like things were fine.
Yeah.
So they didn't, to my knowledge, they weren't like deleting negative comments. Not that they could. They didn't take that off of their website. Like I saw it at least 2 days after the.
It's still up. It's
first
still
email
up.
went out.
If you go back in the
Yeah.
and they generate a lot of good reviews because their products have been pretty okay. But
Sure.
if you go back a few days, you start to see the bleeding in their reviews. And I think maybe that's a choice to leave all that, like, look at these deranged, people who come out of the woodwork to try and suppress my freedom to speak or something. I don't know. It's trying to unwind the thinking of leaving that up like that is I don't know. There are a lot of possible motivations there.
Yeah, and the thing that sticks with me is that whether that is the narrative that you use or not, the reality of your business dropping considerably doesn't necessarily fit that narrative. That's not the important part of
No,
why the business is all of a sudden not doing good.
because it's entirely a self-inflicted wound. 100%.
100%.
And there will be some people who agree and I support you and I'm gonna buy a sticker, but those aren't your recurring regular, if you shed 30,000 people who follow you and of those however many convert regularly, there's not going to be a wave of support that's going to buoy you back up. Not maybe this quarter's results, but not next quarter. So
Right.
there's a long-term impact to this. And I did see in some of the comments on their Insta that it read like a quote from an article, and I have not seen the article, but it was like a copy and paste from something that was unnamed people inside the company saying, we're afraid for our jobs. He does not speak for us. Part of the first message was like, we believe in all kinds of things here at Sticker Mule, but support my guy. So yeah, I think it's an ugly situation inside and out.
Yeah. And again, totally not necessary.
No.
But the biggest thing for me though is it seems like just a fundamental misunderstanding of their customer base.
Yeah.
Because bands need stickers.
Yes.
And so do like companies, but
Yeah.
but a lot of creative folks
Yeah.
who tend to not align with that particular set of politics are going to be a large portion of your customer base.
Yeah.
And there are anecdotal stories about the company sending back proofs with derogatory terms and stuff on them. Like to me, it's a top-down issue.
I hadn't heard that.
We don't have to get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Not great.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, like, again, you're fully able to run your business the way you feel like it should be run.
And message from it however you see fit.
But this is a bad way to run your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you believe.
Yep.
And in going through this and kind of talking with Dan and other folks in the Patreon community, first off, there's always a particular type of person that is going to do this kind of thing. And there just always seems to be this situation where somebody decides that what they believe is so important that they need to share it with people, and they do it under the auspices of their job, their company, or say things that don't necessarily reflect the views of their employer. And then there are consequences.
Yeah.
You can end up with issues with your online presence where people start giving you crappy reviews. You can get fired. Like, there's so many reasons why you should not do this kind of thing.
Right. Right. Let alone like even internally, even like as an HR matter, a leader saying, "Oh yeah, I mean we're all get together, hey, even to mention like everybody loves Candidate A," and then half of the room is like, "Wow, I guess I'm not everyone. Like, this, do I belong here?" It causes all kinds of problems in staff relations too. Listen, there's a big takeaway here that I want to just tie back to all the things I've said over the years about branding, because if you contrast this with another provider of things, there's a company called Penzeys Spices, and they're maybe the best online spice company that there is, and their particular direction of politics has been baked into their brand from the very beginning. I mean, the very beginning. You can't order from them without realizing who you're ordering from and what they stand for. It's really clear, and it's in their messaging. It's baked in deep, and always has been. So for them, a message of politics that's built into the weekly customer email, it's going to land on a self-selected agreeing audience, and B, they expect that. They already expect that. They know the deal with these guys, and either you agree and you're haha rah-rah on board, or you kind of know that's them, whatever, but their garlic powder's really great, which it is. That's one thing. And it's also valid, by the way, for a brand to have, for a band's brand to have politics baked into it. That's the thing. I played with a band that was explicitly political. We performed at March for Science. That was kind of in response to some science denialism that was happening at that time, and it was explicitly political. We did it, and not everyone in the band agreed with that, but we all kind of got on board and were there for the gig and had a great time, and that's how that band was. It was political from its inception, and very clear about that. And if that was going to be a problem, sorry. I don't think we said a lot about it from the stage, but the choices we made around places we play and stuff like that made it clear. My current project, if you ask me what party we belong to, we're card-carrying members of the cocktail party.
There you go.
So, we're deliberately not, and our personnel reflects a broad range of views, right? So there's something about this thing that happened with Sticker Mule where their brand was never political until this moment when it really, really was. And that's bad when it's politics, right? But it's also bad branding. You've just told a lie. You've made a lie out of your brand promise. And I think that's the fact that it happened inside politics, which is already like a freaking forest fire.
Third rail.
Yeah. But it wouldn't have to be. Anything that turns your brand promise into a lie is gonna have a really bad reaction. Just know that. And it's possible to pivot a brand, but boy, it really takes some careful thinking and some eating of the consequences. And I don't think that's what this is. I don't think this was considered that way at all.
Yeah. And in our world, we're basically customer service.
Yep.
And that is you as a player. You're in the customer service industry. I say all of that to say that you need to kind of take the pulse of your customers. You kind of need to know what they're expecting from you. And at this, like you were saying, they basically were doing these things under the auspices that they were an apolitical entity. And then however far along in the story
this week,
it feels like a betrayal because
yes.
The trust is eroded and there is no, like, if you saw that and you decided I'm not going to do business with this company anymore, there's probably not anything that they could do at this point to win back their business.
No. Look, I said it in episode 5. A brand is a promise. It's a promise of the particular experience you are going to have as a consumer when you interact with my products and services and other offerings. It's a promise. And if that promise gets broken, then the same impact happens as any promise getting broken. Trust is gone.
Yeah, the relationship.
Yeah. The relationship's destroyed, trust is gone. And it doesn't have to be politics. That can happen anywhere. If I've made the brand promise that I am professional to schedule gigs with, and then suddenly I'm like not confirming and ghosting on you when you try to follow up, I'm breaking a promise, and that's going to have an impact on your willingness to continue working with me. for sure politics is like a huge part of what we're talking about here, but it's also
Right.
ties in really critically with this whole concept of brand as a promise. And it just got badly broken here. It got badly broken and then leaned into that break. Like it was, I broke my promise to you and screw you about that was kind of the message.
Yeah. Well, and I say this all the time, and I don't know what it's going to take for people to latch onto it. But you are a brand.
Yeah.
Your personal brand is a thing, and whether you know what it is or you're just doing what you're doing, that brand exists. So having intention behind that is a good thing.
Yeah.
And in my previous job, I worked in a church ministry for a very well-known preacher. And he's got his own particular approach to things, but he talks a lot about influence and that politics is not necessarily the right place to lose influence unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Because you say something on whatever end of the spectrum that you're on, and you're immediately putting yourself in opposition to the people that are around you.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Don't do that. Or don't
You
do
don't
it.
have to do that.
Don't do it. I like his word. Don't do it unnecessarily. Right. There's you've said that many times in our conversations, and it's had me think in new ways about influence and leverage as a currency. Right. You know, if I have prominence in an industry or something and people listen to me, and I then can kind of burn some of that value in service of some response, some reaction, some outcome that I want, that's a transaction that I can choose to make. And it may be necessary. And that's all right if I make that assessment, right? But burning it for something as ephemeral in the big picture as politics, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be done with this election season in a few months, and then we'll be into whatever comes next, which I can't predict, but
Let's just
whatever it'll be. But, you know, is it worth whatever long-term impact of my having shown something unattractive to some slice of my followers for something that's got a few months worth of value? Maybe.
Yeah. And circling back to what we were talking about before, a lot of people were really upset at we're now offering X, this particular sale or deal.
You had some cut at that. I'm not aware of.
So my understanding is that because of the way that they acquired that contact list, they are not allowed to send obliquely political content to the people on that distribution.
Huh.
So in order to subvert that, because there's a lot of people saying that there's some potential of some law breaking in the way that was handled.
Yeah.
But by putting a promotion in, you kind of sidestep that. So they're trying to kind of have it both ways. I don't know if it will, that'll pass the sniff test, but
I am aware of some FCC policies that they might be violating, some campaign finance and campaign stuff that may be as well. So yeah, making it a sales pitch also burns your brand, but makes it legal.
Again, I don't feel like there was any strategy involved in any of this. And I understand something very dramatic happened and people got very emotional.
Yes.
There's a lot of heated discussions and a lot of text chains on my end. And I understand feeling like the moment deserves your 2 cents.
Yeah.
And I can assure you that the world does not need to hear it.
No.
Some of the people in your direct orbit may need to hear it, but otherwise you don't have to do that.
No.
And it doesn't mean that you're not being honest. It doesn't mean that you are being not genuine. It's just saving certain things for your personal one-on-one relationships.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Like I am a person who is very online, but there's still very large amounts of information about my day-to-day and my family stuff that just people aren't going to know about because I don't talk about it.
Yeah. They don't,
and that's not what I'm here for.
They don't need to.
And I speak vaguely about Lots of things
Yeah.
all the time on this show.
Yeah, and this, you know, the people whose brand is to not, you know, mommy influencers and such. I hope they're healthy. It doesn't seem healthy.
Yeah, that's a
Topic for another
conversation
day,
for
I
another.
think. But
Yes.
I guess to circle it back to our main, you know, years old thesis here.
Yeah.
If you're a band that says things on stage, don't say these things.
Yeah.
Unless you've always said those things and your audience expects it from you. Don't. Now's not the. Now seems like a particular time, but it's not.
Yeah. If you are in the world that we are in, you are in the entertainment industry.
That's right.
And your job is to entertain.
Yep.
And you're not just, your job isn't to entertain 50% of the room, it's to entertain 100% of the room.
That's right.
Do you think by talking about these kinds of things, you are giving yourself the opportunity to entertain everybody in the room? No? Well, then maybe don't do it. That's how I feel.
I agree.
And I would say if you disagree to email us at coverbandconfidential.com, or that's actually not even right. So yes, email us there because it won't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared of the comments on this one.
It was definitely, I was a bit hesitant to tackle the
You didn't want
subject.
to. You didn't want to at all.
Yeah, I think I was a pretty hard no.
You were.
But I think it's worth repeating. And if somebody sends an email and says, you know how that thing where you could have just said you should have just kept your mouth shut? Well, you should have taken your own advice. I will take that piece of feedback.
100% accept that is, we're not following our rule here.
Yeah. Anywho, I hope that if you have felt a way about things regarding just the general temperature of our country, at least, just know that you're not the only one, and that hopefully this is some solid guidance.
For sure. And if you felt a certain way listening to this, I hope you will forgive us.
I don't know how many times we have to repeat this. Like, we are trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
That is all we are here to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've given people advice they haven't liked before. And the general feedback has been like, hey, when I tried that, it was helpful. So
yeah, sometimes, and honestly, I think that's a big part of the Patreon situation is that, like, there's some tough love in there every once in a while.
Yep.
It's like, hey, and people go there to seek it because they know that the person that they're talking to is already successful and knows what they're talking about and is not emotionally invested in whatever it is that's going on.
Right.
So you're able to get, you'll get some tough love, and it's also a place where people are very open and honest when things don't go right. And that it's kind of a safe spot to be.
Yeah. If you're someone who's interested in growing what you do, including if that means getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
It's a good spot for you to come have that conversation.
Getting out of your own way is definitely, there's been a lot.
Yeah.
We've had that conversation a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.